Well, very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our final class of the cruise, which is our questions and wrap-up session. Now, we're going to be starting with some questions that you've asked me over these sessions. Now, there are 3 questions that I've heard multiple times through both sessions that we're going to start with, but then after we go through those 3 questions we're going to start with, we're going to continue and we're going to go crazy places from there. I believe in this group, everybody has an iPhone. Am I correct in that assumption? Mm-hmm. Has an iPhone or an iPad, correct? No Android people. Okay, good. Good. Because the first group had Android people, so we're just going to stick to iPhone and iPad. Yeah, you have an Android? You have an Android, but do you have a newer Android or you have a bit older of an Android?
It's a Samsung. I don't know which is different for my son.
But you have an iPhone as well, or no?
I have my husband's. I don't know.
Okay, you have your husband's iPhone. So I'm going to stick to the iPhones. Just for my own mental sanity today, I'm going to stick to the iPhones. We'll pass that around so we can still... Is it playing the Netflix video? Yeah, it's still playing. Someone fast forward to the end. I just like to see the video. So I'm going to stick to the iPhones today, and we're going to talk about a couple of different things. So we're going to start by talking about passwords. Now, here's the thing. A lot of you have a lot of passwords. Am I correct in that assumption? A bunch of passwords. And remember, like I said, to your Gmail account, your password for your Gmail account needs to be different than your password for everywhere else, period. We've got a lot of passwords, but we need that password to be different than every other password. But here's the question, how do you manage those passwords? Thoughts? Okay. So I want us to go into settings. So we're going to go into settings. And in an iPhone, iPad, we're going to go to settings. We're going to scroll down to where it says Safari. So grab your device. You're going to go to settings. You're going to go to Safari. And then you're going to scroll. You shouldn't have to scroll, but you're going to scroll in Safari a bit to where it says passwords. Do you see that? Settings, Safari, passwords?
Yeah.
And we're going to click on passwords. And then it will say Touch ID for settings. And I go ahead and you can either put in your Touch ID or your PIN. So settings, Safari, passwords. And then once you put that in, you should see, Safari will be down a bit. I'll go back one more. Settings, Safari, passwords. When you touch passwords, it'll ask for your PIN or your finger, correct?
Right.
And then what you will see is you will see your stored passwords.
I didn't even know they stored it.
Yeah.
No, it just says a thing.
Let's see. First. You're okay. Let's see. Put your fingerprint. Put your fingerprint. No, on the home button.
Oh.
So like you would unlock your phone. So if you put your fingerprint there, you can get in and you can do it in that way, shape, and form. We've got our fingerprint there. Cool? Makes sense? So we go ahead. What? Are you putting your code there?
I got a 5.
Okay, that's fine, but you will see all of the passwords that have been saved inside of Safari. So all the passwords you have saved inside of Safari will show up there. You know when it asks, can Safari save your password? Can Safari save your password? Can Safari save your password? It asks you all of that all the time.
I always say no, but I must have hit yes.
If you say yes, it's going to store in there. Now, it is very safe to do this if your device has Touch ID. So if your device has Touch ID, you don't want to cross this way. You're going to be...
No, are these my printed
No, those are
pages?
old. No, that's something way too
Oh, I
old.
have some
Yeah,
printed.
that's probably been tossed by now.
Okay.
So, Safari, like we were saying, will offer to save your passwords. Now, this will synchronize across all of your Apple devices. How it synchronizes across all of your Apple devices is using something called iCloud Keychain, which is something that's in the iCloud settings. To turn on iCloud Keychain, you must turn on iCloud Keychain once you are already home, because it's going to send a text message to you to turn it on. So the first time you turn on iCloud Keychain, it's going to send a text message to you, and you're going to turn on iCloud Keychain. That's going to synchronize your passwords across the passwords on all of your Apple devices, on your iPhone, on your iPad, on your Mac. We'll talk about those of you who don't have Macs in a couple minutes' time, but it's going to synchronize those passwords across all of the devices. Now, when you turn on iCloud Keychain, it's going to send you a text message. You're going to take that text message and you're going to use that text message to go ahead and set up the first device. Makes sense to everybody, right? We use that text message to set up the first device. The second device, you can't do it from the ship. It's going to want a text message. The second device, when you turn on the keychain inside of iCloud, I'll show you where it is. I don't want anybody doing it because it's going to create more problems than it's going to solve. There's something inside of iCloud that says keychain. When you get home, you turn it on. and it's going to say, hey, do you want to synchronize all your passwords across all your devices? You say yes. It's going to make you do a verification step with your phone number. Then when you add your second device, let's say I add a second iPhone or an iPad or anything like that, when I add my second device, it's going to ask me for my Apple password as well as to authorize it from my first device. Does that make sense? So it's going to ask to authorize from the first device. So what it's going to do, I'm going to finish this and then I'll take any questions. So it takes the iCloud keychain and it puts it, so you'll, in Safari, in the bookmarks, when you fill something in Safari, you'll have it across your iPhone and across your iPad. If you have a Mac, you will automatically get all of those things across your Mac as well inside of Safari. So you have it inside of Safari. If you are full in on Apple, meaning iPhone, iPad, and Mac, life is very easy for remembering passwords. If you're like me and you also have a Windows computer and you also have an Android phone and different things like that, life becomes slightly more difficult. Now, how I handle it on my other machines is Google Chrome. You know Google Chrome. I've been referencing Google Chrome multiple times this cruise. Google Chrome actually has a password manager inside of it. So you can install Google Chrome. If you have a Windows computer, you can install Google Chrome on your iPhone and on your iPad, sign in with your Google account, and that will synchronize all of your passwords, which is what's really cool. So you install Google Chrome. Yeah.
So if you're all Apple,
if you're all Apple,
is better to be on Chrome than Safari?
If you're all Apple, stick to Safari. If you have a Windows computer and you can't run Safari on a Windows computer, you stick to Chrome and it'll synchronize across. I want you to understand, on iPhones and iPads, Chrome is just Safari. So Chrome is just Safari with a pretty skin on it. All you're allowed to have on an iPhone or iPad is Safari, which is called a WebKit browser. And all Chrome is it's prettied up I don't even have it on here. R-O. I don't have Chrome on this because I just use the Safari passwords that are saved together. Now, I use Safari and I use Chrome. And every time either Safari or Chrome ask me to save my password, I say yes. I got my new Android phone the other day. I signed in with my Google account, and automatically inside of Chrome on this phone, all of my passwords were here. All of my passwords were here. It synchronizes over. Here's the thing. Apple and Google, I'm saying either use Safari or Chrome. Apple, #1 company in the world. I'm talking volume cap, market cap. I'm also talking customer satisfaction. Google ranks up. They're in the top 5 in customer satisfaction. They're #2 in market cap. These companies are not going to get hacked. Your password's not going to get stolen from these companies. Little rinky-dink password managers, 1Password, different things like that, those get hacked. I'm going to tell you, Dropbox got hacked a couple years ago. There was a time, it was a very brief window, but it was for about 12 hours. If you typed in someone's Dropbox email address and didn't put a password and just hit sign in, it would sign in. People got access to password lists. People got access to everything. Apple and Google are not going to mess up. They're not going to mess with your passwords, to give you an idea right there. So we'll synchronize across. Now remember, you can view any of your saved passwords by hitting on Settings, and then that's exactly where we refer, scrolling down to Safari, and then going to Passwords, and then you're just going to go ahead and you can view your passwords. So I have a password that's pretty useless. I can click in, and it'll show me, actually that's not a super useless password. Let me pick something that's actually useless. Yeah, this is pretty useless password. Don't use this password anymore. But this is a password for this website. If I wanted to find a password for any website, I would just scroll down to that website. I have a lot of websites. Oh my. Let me find something that's useless. Ooh. Okay, Miami-Dade County Public Library Service. Doesn't matter. So I have my username as my library card and my passwords right there to give you an idea there. So I can put that in, I can look that up, and that's going to synchronize across all of my Apple devices. Google Chrome will do it if you have more than Apple devices as well. I use a combination of Safari and Google Chrome, and I let those store my passwords automatically. Now, that's the first thing I want to talk about, but now I want to go into what's going to, now ask your questions of the passwords. Okay, because passwords are going to get very interesting. Very soon, you will not need passwords anymore.
Yay.
Oh, don't say yay,
No.
because you're not going to like the other thing. Now, I need somebody that has on them 2 devices, an iPhone and an iPad. Do you have 2 devices? Okay. I'm going to take your iPad, and I'm going to show you something very, very interesting. Now, I've taken her iPad, and I'm going to talk about 2-factor authentication. Now, I want to read to you the sign that we've had posted in front of the iLounge for the entire cruise, especially because this is a transatlantic cruise and we had so many days at sea. I'm going to read you a sign. What is on this sign is also posted on Celebrity's website. is also posted on all of your booking forms, and whether you read it or not is not personally my problem, but the fact that it's on there, it's in celebrities' terms and conditions that no one ever reads. And it says, internet information about using your account on board. I want to read this to you, and then I'm going to make sense of it, if it makes sense. I'm going to make sense of it. So it says, attention. Now, this is verbatim off of celebrities' website. Attention, some email providers such as Yahoo, AOL, and Gmail, and I had to do Gmail that way because that's how the lawyers wrote it, G-mail, don't ask. That's how I wrote it. I wrote it exactly. May require a two-step verification process for you to access your email. This enhanced security system is established by your provider. They may require you to enter some extra information such as a verification codes or answers to your security questions in order to gain access to your email account. If any of you know what that means, that's basically Chinese to you. It's okay. It means that you need a two-factor verification. It's going to send you a text message. That is also why it is going to be nearly impossible in less than a year's time to use the computers in here. So it's better off, my personal opinion, to just remove them. So I want to do you a live demo of two-factor verification. This is what I want to show. That's why when anybody comes, we ask, you know your Apple password, right? You know your password for getting stuff from Apple? It's somewhere. It's in your book. Okay, we'll find it. We can fix it if we need to. It's okay. It's already just, okay. I don't need it. I don't need it. That was an intrinsic question. That was an intrinsic question. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking her device and I am going to sign out of her Apple account. So I have signed out of her Apple account on her device, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign in on my Apple account on her device. But I'm going to show you how this works up on the screen. I think this is very interesting. So we're going to put these side by side. Boop, boop. Don't ask how I do this. It's my magic. I created it. It's my baby. So I've got these guys right here, and what I want to do is I need to sign in to the App Store for her. And I'm going to sign in with my account. Now, this may sound strange, but I'm going to sign in with my account. And I am going to give you right now, all of you in this room, my username and password for Apple. I am so confident in this that you can't do anything. I'm not only giving it to you, I'm putting it on the internet as well. You remember that guy who used to advertise LifeLock? You remember that stupid thing they used to sell? Yeah. Do you know that guy's had his identity stolen like 10,000 times? No. Really? He's like, he had a billboard, and he'd just drive down the street, he had his social security number written on the billboard. It's like, try and hack me, LifeLock's great. And they hacked him. They hacked him about 10,000 times. But I am so confident in this, I'm going to give out, well, we all know my email address. It's richard@gotrichard.com. And my Apple password is applepassword7. Lower A-P-P-L-E, capital P-A-S-S-W-O-R-D 7. Now, what can you do with that information? Well, you think that you can get into my Apple account.
Put it on a billboard.
Put it on a billboard! I'm not going to put it on a billboard. But here's the thing. This is called two-factor authentication. So I'm going to hit sign in. And instead of needing a password, what it's going to do is it is going to contact all of my other Apple devices and say, well, I got the password. So it needs the password, but now it's going to contact my other Apple device. If you watch the screen, give it about 25 seconds or so. It's trying to sort where it is, and it says two-factor authentication. This is her device here. It says there's a new device that's trying to sign in. So all of my devices, it just popped up on my laptop, on my phone, on my other phone. Your Apple ID is being used to sign into an iPad near Melbourne, Florida. Do you want to allow it or not allow it? And I say, allow. And then I put in that code. That is a single-use code. I can very safely show this here because this code is only good for about a minute. So then I just go right here, and on her device I type in the code, 832651. And then I'm signed into my Apple account. Now here's the question. If it has this type of security, why is it even asking for your password? Well, because as human beings, we're still inclined to think that passwords are secure. Passwords are not secure in any way, shape, or form. Passwords are an absolute disaster. Passwords can be hacked. The most popular password is password. Another password is QWERTY. I'm going to log out of my Apple account so she can sign back in if she wanted to. But what's very cool is I went in and I verified that. In the future, you will not need passwords. Very strangely, the first company to roll this out, and this is a company I have poo-pooed so much on this cruise, but the first company to roll out the ability to sign into your account without a password is Yahoo. It's one of the first companies because here's what you do. You can enable this. If you have a Yahoo account, I don't do anything useful in my Yahoo account, but I did try this in my Yahoo account just for fun. Essentially, what Yahoo enabled you to do is if you go to yahoo.com, you can just type in your email address and type sign in. It will then ask all of your devices that you have if that sign in is valid. And if you say yes, you're signed in. No need for a password, no need for anything like that. That is the future of how things work. A password is something you know. Something you know can be written down. Something you know can also be lost or stolen. I'm not going to display it, don't worry. But her password sheets, oh, she got all kinds of stuff there. Oh, look at this. Oh, Netflix, we got the Cafe Press, got the Shutterfly. Tell you a true story from last cruise. I had someone who wrote me an email. Fortunately, they wrote me an email and I got it right away. They said, we left some jewelry and our password book in our safe in the cabin when we got off the ship. Fortunately, I checked my email and we got it off in Miami and they got it back. But understand, a physical password book, very dangerous. Now, most of your Apple accounts have already got enabled on them a second factor of verification. If you've gotten a new device before, it says, okay, you've got a new device. We need you to do exactly what I just did right there. By the end of this year, any good provider will have a second step of verification. Your first step of verification is something you know, which is your password. And your second step of verification is something you have, which is your device. The reason I made Celebrity put this on their website is if you try and sign into Hotmail, for most Hotmail accounts, on these computers, it says, nope. You will only get a two-factor authentication, though, triggered if one of two things are true. You have two variables. One is called an unknown device, and one is called an unknown location. If you have a known device, such as your iPhone, you can use your iPhone anywhere in the world, or your iPad anywhere in the world, with any account, as long as you've used that account before, and it won't bother you on that iPhone. But the minute you sign into another device, it's done. And if you were to sign in to, say, your Hotmail or a provider that has two-step authentication here, and you weren't able to prove that second step of authentication, it's going to kill out your devices you already have. Or you can sign in with a new device in a location you've signed in before from. So if you get a new iPhone, you sign in from your house, then you can sign in, then you're okay. Because remember that Wi-Fi address that I said your phone has? Your router at home has that too. So your router at home has that too. So what's going to happen in the very near future is you're not going to use passwords anymore, because that's incredibly insecure. Instead, you're just going to verify it from your device. Now, I had a lady in the first class that said, well, what if my device is stolen or lost or dropped in the toilet or different things like that? That is why, unfortunately, nowadays, you're going to need to carry with you on a vacation if you're going to be away for a bit. Two devices. Two devices. Because in a worst case scenario, let's say you have one device and you need to get into your email and you've got the second factor authentication, you've got to call someone at home, have them go to one of your devices that's at home and receive that request. If you have two devices, if your phone gets lost, you still have your iPad. Does that make sense? And you can technically add another phone using your iPad. So I have 5 phones, which means I have 5 steps of authentication. Now, only 2 of these phones will work with Apple stuff, but the other ones will work with Google stuff and different things like that. Yes?
So if somebody has a Windows computer at home and they have just a tablet that would be Windows, they won't work anymore on the ships?
No. Okay, so here's the important thing to understand. If you have a known device, your computer in a new location is fine. A known location with an unknown computer is fine. 2 unknowns is what triggers this thing. As soon as you get 2 unknowns, you trigger this thing. So these computers are unknown computers to your email provider in an unknown location. Now, we have changed locations, satellite locations, 5 times this cruise. Legally and technically, we are now inside of Europe. That's why we're routing to Google Germany. So it routes to Google Germany because right now we are inside of Europe. So we switched to Europe. We were on American satellites until late last night. We switched to European satellites late last night, and that's why we're getting Google Germany. Now, question, this is a theory question. Who knows how if we wanted to get to the US, what application would we use to fake the US? It's a great application.
Oh, bear.
Tunnel Bear, yes.
Yesterday.
Tunnel Bear. Yes, Tunnel Bear, to give you an idea there. So that's the idea. So sometimes I need to get something that's just in the States, and I would use something like a Tunnel Bear. But what I want you to understand is two-factor authentication used to be just for the crazies. By the crazies, I mean me, incredibly secure. Now it's the norm. So what's really quite interesting is, like, what I have to do is when I teach the Google Photos class, I actually have enrolled all of these computers as computers that I own. So it doesn't give me a second factor verification. Remember when we were logging into my Gmail account and all that kind of stuff? I've enrolled all these machines. I said they're all cool. But if I have an additional machine, I have to do that second factor verification. So what's really quite interesting is technically, all of these machines are second factors for me. So I can lose all of my devices and I still have all these machines. I still need to put in a password right now, but it's very, very secure. I'm talking to the wrong crowd. I'm preaching to the wrong crowd, but here's the problem. You're going to be sitting with someone who's going to have a Hotmail address, and they're going to say, I don't have a device. I've never had a phone. I've never had a tablet. Very easily, these, by the end of this year, will be worthless. But what I mean by worthless is we can still teach classes on them and stuff like that, but we can't use them for anything with your accounts. Does that make sense? Any questions on two-factor verification? I think I did a pretty good demo. Does that make sense? Yeah, in the corner.
So in other words, if you're traveling with a phone and a tablet,
Uh-huh.
and you're in an area where you can only get cellular service,
That's okay.
you can't get Wi-Fi service.
That's fine.
So how do you get the two-factor verification?
You don't need the two. So here's the thing. The two-factor verification only comes up if you have both a new device and a new location. So your phone and your tablet are known devices. That's fine. There have to be two unknowns for that factor to come into play. Does that make sense? There has to be two unknowns. One unknown is fine. My iPhone will connect to my Gmail account anywhere in the world. When I got this phone, my Samsung yesterday, I signed into my mint.com. Remember that mint.com thing I showed you that manages all your finances and things like that? I signed into my mint.com and it said, well, we don't recognize this device. And I'm like, yeah, of course you don't recognize the device. And we don't recognize the store you bought it in because I was on their Wi-Fi. And I go, of course you don't recognize it. So what it needed to do is it needed to send something to my email. But in order to even get this device to connect, what I had to do is I had to log in with my phone and approve the Google login for this device, which then brought everything over. So Google's going to have two-factor authentication, and Apple's going to have two-factor authentication. So guess what? Your passwords are going to be even more secure than being behind a password. The thing is, two-factor authentication until very recently has been opt-in, meaning if you wanted it, you had to go turn it on. Now it's opt-out. And you should probably never turn off two-factor authentication. Now, one of the cool things about two-factor authentication, sometimes you have an old device that can't use two-factor authentication. All of the websites will let you make a single-use password that's used for a single-use time. You can technically take that single-use password and put it in your wallet. And in a worst-case scenario, technically you have a password. It will only let you log in one time. But it's a single-use, one-time password that will let you log into your account one time. So it's not something you're going to write down all the time. But the password itself is going away. A trusted device is going to be what's really cool soon. So I'll tell you what's interesting. This is not true of my iPhone. This phone, they went ahead, I'm going to explain to you trusted device in a little bit of a different way. They went ahead and they put the fingerprint sensor on the back because they couldn't find a way to integrate the fingerprint sensor in the screen. I have face unlock and iris unlock and everything like that, but I don't use any of that. You know what I use? I have my watch. As long as my watch is connected to my phone, then my watch is close enough to my phone, then guess what happens? My phone just unlocks. On an Apple Watch, if you have your Apple computer, when you turn on your Apple computer, if you're wearing your Apple Watch, the Apple computer automatically unlocks. This is a second factor of authentication. You have something you know and something you have. Something you know and something you have. And just so to make it clear, when I put on either of these two watches, I'm required to put a code in. The second they lose my heart rate, the code goes away. So if I die with the watches on,
Or if somebody takes it off your wrist.
or somebody takes off my wrist, it's worthless. Like, here's what's funny. This watch has my credit card on it. I'm going to go out and we can talk about Apple Pay if you want to. I can talk about Apple Pay, but this is now worthless. It's completely locked until I put it back on and I open up the device again. Last thing I want to talk about that's fixed, and then what we're going to do, yeah, go ahead, two-factor question.
Yeah. If my wife has an Apple phone as well,
Uh-huh.
that would be two factors, right?
Are you on the same Apple account? Then you only have a single factor. but you're fine. What I mean by two-factor is second factor. If you've already set up that device before, you're never going to have to worry about it. It's only if you get a new device.
Okay.
If you get a new device, you'll be hit by that second factor. So I want to make this very clear. It's not going to change anything for any of you in this room that are using your device. It's going to change you if you need to use these devices. Your device is perfectly fine, and it's going to have basically evolved to the point there is no need on Apple, now that you have two-factor authentication, there is no need to ask for a password. But right now, only nerds like me understand that two-factor is significantly more secure than a password, than a sheet of passwords, than a book of passwords, than having your password in a company called 1Password that can easily be hacked. I mean, that's the logic to it there. Does that make sense to everybody? I want to talk about one last thing, and then we're going to open up the floor for the last 45 minutes or so. I want to talk about location services. And we found something very interesting in the first class. We found 3 people, and this is why location services is now going to become a permanent part of this class, a permanent part of the VIP classes. I found 3 people that would have gone home and would have used Google Photos and never would have gotten locations in their Google Photos in the first class because they did not allow location services on the camera. So the camera was never tracking their location. So we're going to talk about location services. I want us to go into settings. I want us to scroll down to where it says privacy, right under battery. We'll go to settings, and then we'll go to privacy. And on the top of privacy, it says location services. Do you see that? Click on location services. This starts to get extremely interesting. It is then going to show you all of the apps that have ever asked for location access. So you go settings, just pure settings, not settings general. Settings, privacy, location services. Let me know we're all there. Are we all there? And it's on at the top. Location services is green. Now, if you scroll down, you'll see some apps, and you're like, okay, well, why do these need location services?
Some of them I don't think do.
Some of them you don't think do. So let's talk about some. I want to talk about a couple apps. This is an interesting app. I made the conscious choice not to talk about this app on stage, but I'm going to tell you a really interesting app that came up the other day, just because I'm now watching Bill Nye, and he did a whole thing on climate change, and I think all of us in this room agree that global warming's a thing.
Yes.
Okay. We can't say that of certain people that are in charge of countries, but we all believe that global warming is a thing. Really interesting app that came out for Earth Day is called After Ice. It shows you what the water level is going to be where you are after the polar ice caps melt. Well, but here's the thing. This application needs to know where you are to show you. There we go. Look, yeah. This is actually, it's a really cool app because when you understand what's happening. So you take selfies in areas and it shows that after the ice cap. Yeah. But it uses location services to figure out where you are. So it'll show where I am, ground altitude, what the water level is, and people are taking pictures in New York and stuff like that, and posting it on Facebook, posting it on all of those. But that's an application that needs to know where you are in order to figure out what's going on with locations. But then you've got some apps and you're just like, huh?
Yeah.
And if you scroll down, you might see some that are strange. Now, you'll see some that make sense. You can't use Google Maps without Google Maps being able to find your location. Something I want to look at is I want you to all find camera, C-A-M-E-R-A.
Yeah.
Does camera say while using?
Yes.
Yes.
Does anybody say never? Okay, so I want you to click on camera,
I just did.
and I want you to choose while using.
Yeah, I did.
You would never get locations in your Google Photos because what happened was the first time you open up an app, if it wants you to track your location, it's going to say, we want to allow location services, and you either say okay or no. And you said no, so good. We found 2 more people that now you're going to, now the problem is you don't have any locations on your existing photos because you didn't allow those locations on your existing photos, but all new photos will have them. That's why this is a very important part of the class. Now here's the thing. There's some apps. Let's go ahead. I'm going to show you an example. Just click on any app. It doesn't matter. Click on any app that's showing there.
Does the App Store need your
Need your
location?
location?
The App Store does need your location because it shows things that are relevant to you. It should. Is the App Store there? Hey, App Store's there.
That's the
Yeah.
one first.
While using. While using's okay, meaning when the app's open.
Yes.
But I opened an app. I just opened an interesting app that I.
either always or never.
Uh-huh. So, some apps will give you 3 factors, 3 choices. It'll say never while using the app or always. Now, I want to talk about a company that's a very interesting company that got me started on this tangent. I started talking about this about 3 weeks ago. There is actually an iLearn review, like a 10-minute thing on location services, But there's a company that's actually really interesting with location services, which is called Uber. Now, Uber only has two options: always or never.
No, I
There's
have wild
technic-
use. I have wild use.
Aha, because you have an old version of Uber.
Oh.
They updated their app.
Oh.
So if you have an old, most of us have, if you have Uber, I have always and I have never. My apps are up to date. They had while using, that was in an older version of the Uber app, and then they changed it because now Uber watches you for 10 minutes after you get out of the Uber, because they found people were cheating them and were going to places that were, because it's more expensive to go to different buildings and different places and things like that, so they were cheating them and getting out and walking. So they would go to a certain place, yeah.
Well, somebody told me that turn location services off because it burns up a lot of battery.
Well, it's there. Well, hold on. You made a statement, and I want to correct your statement. You said that's not cheating, it's their right. That's not true, because let me tell you why it was cheating. You can read this article when you get home. Fantastic article. Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, actually called the CEO of Uber and threatened to pull Uber from the App Store, because this is where the cheating comes into play. They made the app not do that where Apple was testing the app to go in the App Store. So they geo-fenced around Apple's campus and geo-fenced around where iCloud is and everything like that, and they said, app, don't do it around there, so no one in Apple catches us doing that. That's cheating.
But why is it my right to get out?
early.
I'm not talking about you getting out early. No, I'm saying Uber wants to track that. I'm not saying you're cheating. I'm saying Uber doesn't want you.
Oh, I thought you meant.
No, I'm not saying you. No, I'm not saying you. I'm saying Uber's cheating. Let's get that correct. Uber wants to be able to charge as much money as possible, and if it sees that everybody's found a trick to getting out sooner and paying a less amount of money, I understand it's your right. I trust me, I feel you 100%. But if you put in that you want to go from Copenhagen, because I've done this multiple times, you want to go from the ship to Tivoli Gardens, it's a certain price, because Tivoli Gardens is a destination. If you want to go from the ship to a toy store that's about 400 yards from Tivoli Gardens, it costs about 3/4 of the price of going to Tivoli Gardens. So they're tracking you after to see how close to your final destination the Uber is actually taking you. So the question that I got in the early class is, well, should I allow apps to see my location? I think that's a loaded question. The answer is you need to factor yourself whether that app needs to see your location or not. I have a lot of apps. Out of my 330 apps, there's probably 100 of them that need to see my location. Obviously, Google Photos wants to see my location. Obviously, here's an example. I went to the circus. Remember the Ringling Brothers Circus that shut down?
Yeah.
The day they announced they were shutting down, they were in Miami. I figured I grew up as a kid. I wanted to go see the circus. Now, that app, it's saying, I'm saying never, because it's doing that. Now, you'll notice that some of them are purple. Some of the little app things are purple there. You see that? That means if they're purple, they're actually tracking you right now.
Where, oh, the arrows.
The little arrow thing's purple.
Wow.
That means it's tracking you right now.
That's because you have Disney World on always.
I don't have Disney World on. I should probably turn that one off. When I talked about Disney tracing you. Never! Or just while using the app. Here's the simple answer. If a company doesn't allow you to choose it to while using the app, there's a reason. Now, some logical exceptions to that are Uber, technically, because if you order an Uber, you want to be able to leave the app. Uber still knows where you are. I'm just giving you some logic. Sometimes it takes 10, 12 minutes to get an Uber, and you want to be able to leave the app when you go where you are. When you're using Maps, you need to be able to leave the app and go to the background. So some apps need to have access in the background. But I would like you to just be very cautious. I'll mention one thing. When you go in the App Store, when you get an app, every app has a contact email address. It has to have a contact email address at the bottom. If you're questioning why they need your location, write the people that make the app and say, hey, why the hell do you need my location? But you would think, even online dating apps need your location because they need to know where you live to figure out what 25 miles away from you is. You see, I mean, you got to think why companies need your apps. Yeah, you need your location now.
Does Syrian dictation need your?
Of course it does.
So
Because if you ask
goes
Siri
right back
what's
to
the weather and you don't define a location, it's going to look for the location you are right now.
that you're at.
Yeah.
But Siri,
Like
that's one of those
flashlight.
wild music ones, so.
A flashlight doesn't need your a flashlight doesn't need your location. You have a flashlight app installed? Yeah, you really need to question that.
You know, it's really interesting because I took a Uber to a cruise here.
Yeah?
Okay, and it was really cheap. Okay, and then from the airport back to my house was like 3 times the price.
Correct.
in Uber.
Yeah.
Is that where they?
This is where it comes. They're tracking this stuff. They're metricing these things. I mean-
they can't do it anymore. Or or to a limited extent.
They can do it to a more limited extent, but they were trying to track it. And Tim Cook said, you better stop tracking people or else we're going to pull you from the App Store. And obviously Uber stopped tracking them as much, but they still do a lot of tracking, a lot of geofencing, a lot of interesting things like that. But I want you to scroll down a little bit more. I want to show you one more thing and then I'll take some questions on it.
Lyft? Is Lyft doing the
Same thing. They're all doing the same thing. Do you see where it says System Services on the bottom?
Yeah.
Click on System Services. And then I want you to scroll down to where it says, it should say Frequent Locations. Do you see that?
Yes.
Click on that. That's going to show you frequent places that you've been, and you might recognize some of those locations.
I don't know where this is. I don't know.
Okay. You've got nothing. You've turned off your frequent locations.
Where's this, under what?
You're still in, so you scroll all the way down the bottom of Location Services, and it'll say System Services, and then it will say Frequent Locations.
Interesting.
Mine is not empty. Mine's got Aruba and Bermuda, 9 locations, Miami, and if I go in, it's actually got 6 visits recorded at Palm Beach, 5 visits recorded, 2 visits recorded, Maritime Lane. I've got all of those things inside.
It's like,
Why does it
Just
say
a
on instead of just green?
doesn't say.
Why does it
where.
say, because it says on, because there's a different function inside of here. It says on because the switch to turn it on is inside of that folder there. So what you need to do is when you get something and you're like, should this have my location? You should just be like, you should really think about whether or not it should have your location or not. I think those are 3 questions that have been brought up by multiple people. I want to take any questions on those 3 questions, and then we'll go. What I'm going to do is my handwriting is pretty illegible, so I'm going to have somebody on this blank sheet of paper. You have pretty good handwriting? Your handwriting? Okay, don't write anything yet. We're going to write out the rest of the class now while we're talking to give you an idea. So we're going to write out the rest of the class right now. Any questions on those first 3 things, though? Well, yeah, you got a question?
With the location service, I tried to turn it off for TV channels I'd like to watch, but it still didn't let me.
So that's because of the locational restrictions. So that's why you got to use the tunnel bear. That's why you got to do different things like that. Yeah,
so it doesn't
unfortunately.
work. So even if I turn it off and say.
If you turn it off, no, it's just going to say we can't determine your location to give you an idea there. So now, yep,
I couldn't get to the location thing at all.
the frequent location.
It stopped me saying. I
It's
had
in
to be-
privacy, location services. You're there. And we're good, so we can see the frequent locations. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to build the rest of the class. She's going to keep notes for me, and what's cool is just of what they talk about, and then I'm going to cross them out as we go through them, if that makes sense. So, random things we want to talk about. Go ahead.
Well, I've always had a question about when I go to a motel and I use their Wi-Fi.
Okay, so you just use a VPN there, and then that's. I think we've already addressed that question. If you'd like me to address it again, I can
Well,
address
I'm
it
talking
again.
about security?
Yeah, that's a VPN.
Oh, okay. It's
So once you connect to sketchy Wi-Fi, open up BetterNet. That one's free. Turn on BetterNet. That encrypts your connection. That makes it perfectly fine.
And the other thing is, what happens if I'm out and I see the TV says that the stock went down? Can I get on my phone and go to my broker and make it on Wi-Fi?
I'll put it like this: by the time the TV tells you the stock's down, it's already crashed.
Okay.
It's already crashed. That's the simple metric. You got to kind of keep track a little bit better. What I do
Well,
is,
say buy.
yeah, that's the Robinhood that we talked about. You remember that Robinhood
Yeah,
application we
that's
talked
right,
about?
yeah.
I want to address some somewhat new things. So I'm just going to get a list. Go ahead and she's got a list. Go ahead and give me. Go ahead.
What's the difference between? Well, I've got an old Google Mail address. Do I need to change it to Gmail?
No, so that's one. You don't need to write this down. Some of these are really quick ones, but if we get something longer, I'll have to write it down. We'll come back to it because I want to get all the questions so I can start preparing where we're going. Google Mail and Gmail are the exact same thing. There was some regulations in the EU that said that people didn't realize that Gmail was owned by Google, so they had to call it Google Mail. It's the same thing. If you type in Gmail, it's kind of like iCloud and Me and all those other things. They're exactly the same. It's just a different name by the horse. Yeah, you have a Gmail address.
Can we talk about Apple Pay and how
Apple
you do
Pay,
it?
perfect. Write that one down.
Called iPay, they have iPhones, iPads, why do they call it iPay?
Because Apple Pay works on Macs. That's not called the That's not called the iMacBook Pro. That's just the MacBook Pro. We'll talk about Apple Pay. It's actually Apple Pay is awesome. So you wrote down Apple Pay. Give me some other stuff. I love Apple Pay.
This is about Google Photos.
Okay.
When iPhotos went to Photos,
Yeah.
and they were sucked in there,
Uh huh.
all of the folders that we made.
Yeah, it's all gone.
Everything disappeared.
It's all gone.
So
photos, is the same thing gonna happen? with
Yes,
the
Google
phones?
Photos is just a pure stream of your pictures, oldest to newest. Okay, we got Apple Pay. That's one loaded thing. I love Apple Pay. I'm gonna talk about Apple Pay for like 10.
Going back to photos.
Yeah.
On my Mac Pro,
Yeah.
there's I have faces stored.
The
You store your program in faces.
Your faces. You're from the UK, correct?
Yes.
Did I
Will
see
that-
your phone yet, or didn't I? Or no, I haven't seen your phone yet. Before you leave tomorrow, I'll be here between 2 and 5. Come by and just be like, hey, I'm from the UK and I need the faces. You have a Gmail account already, right?
Yes, I've got.
I need to get you the facial recognition on your Google Photos before you leave, since you're from
Okay.
the UK. So the faces stuff is automatically going to show up on everybody else's device when you hit US or Canadian soil. So when you hit US or Canadian soil, you're okay. I need to trick your UK thing into working. So
Okay.
faces, I'm going to let me show you where they would show up in Google Photos, just so you, this is an easy one. Apple Pay is a longer one. If I go into Google Photos, I go ahead and you'll see it says on the bottom, it says albums right here. And inside of albums, it will say people. And that's where you'll define the faces. Now, on the ship, you will not see people because it can't determine whether that's legal in your location or not because it doesn't know where you are based on location. As soon as you hit U.S. soil, though, you'll get facial grouping. As soon as you hit U.S. or Canadian soil. Now, that's how I name the people. Now, these are the people that I've already gone ahead and named, but I can go ahead and I can click on any person here, and it'll say, who's this? And then I just go ahead and I name them to give you an idea there. So that's a simple process, yeah.
Relocation services. When I get this phone to London,
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to do Uber.
Yep.
I've got location services on.
Yeah, you have to, yeah.
Yeah. Anything else I gotta do? to make it
So
work?
you need to make sure you have internet to do Uber. You do
Sure,
understand
sure,
that? Okay,
Wi-Fi,
I'll make it.
Wi-Fi, yeah. Okay.
But here's the question: how are you going to get back
To.
to the hotel?
Oh, okay.
That's a loaded question because Wi-Fi to the hotel, but how are we going to get back from Piccadilly Circus to the hotel?
I do have AT&T in my.
You have AT&T there. Okay, so just remember, you need to have an internet of some sort to request an Uber. One of the greatest secrets to Uber is, if any of you have ever been to St. Petersburg? Uber is like $1.50 to get from the ship to the middle of town in St. Petersburg. It's like nothing because the Russian ruble, as you noticed in my earlier class, is worth toilet paper. So you know, Uber is really, really cheap. If you take a cab, they're going to charge you $50. If you take Uber, the problem is to use Uber in St. Petersburg, you have to have roaming data because there's no Wi-Fi in the terminal or anything like that. So I'm just now I heard something that was written that they said right there. I want you to add this. They weren't officially talking about it, but write down global Wi-Fi. We'll talk about that. I have great hearing. I heard you having that discussion over there. Next thing to add a list.
Another Google Photos related question.
Okay.
My wife and I each have an iPhone with separate Gmail addresses. Can we combine our photos into one?
So what's cool, and this is a personal choice, you can technically sign in on the phone. I actually have 3 different Google accounts inside of Google Photos, and you can choose which one to back up to. So you can get your own email in the Gmail app, but you can just, to one of your accounts, back up all your pictures across multiples of the devices.
For me to access, if it's under her account, then I've got to use her.
Her Gmail stuff, yes.
Or can we set up a?
No, you cannot set up a joint account. You can't set up a joint account. So it has to be on a single account. You can make shared albums and share them between 2 accounts, but what I recommend, good question, husband and wife, you know, you figure you'll be together until one of you dies, let's be honest, you know, you can make sure everybody knows all their passwords, and make sure you have devices, because that's going to be a big thing. One of the big legal things, I hate to bring up death, but I have to bring up death. One of the big things is what happens to your information once you die. And nobody really knows what happens to your Google Photos once you die, because technically Google Photos only allow when you're alive. So there's a legal challenge right now that's going on with that. I don't mean to bring that up, but this related to the thing. It's related to sharing of accounts. So all of my pictures are actually coming from my mom's computer, from everything like that. That's why what I did on stage today, I very clearly tested all of those things last night in my cabin to make sure no weird pictures would come up. Like, I had to type in Richard in the bathtub, and I had to watch until that finished to make sure. I tried Richard naked, it said no pictures, so I was like, thank God. But I wasn't going to demo that. So the answer is, my family cannot be trusted to back things up. So I've installed Google Photos on all of their devices with my Gmail account, and that's how I have hundreds of thousands of pictures. I haven't taken that many.
So then they've got to sign into your account.
So what happens to you if something happens to you?
So my mom has access to a lot of things. What happens when it happens to me? There is a website that you can just Google it. I don't know the name of it. There's a website that it sends me an email once every 3 months, once every quarter, and asks if I'm still alive.
Oh, nice.
And I have to respond within like 4 or 5 days. And if I don't respond, then it has a kill switch that sends all of my passwords to, like all of my useful passwords and stuff, to my mom, to her email, and to my sisters and stuff like that. I don't know the name of the website. I set it up a long time ago, but there's websites that exist like that. That's like, it's like a, are you alive? Yes, I'm alive. What do we have on the list so far? I want to see time-wise.
I had one other,
Two things.
Okay, 2 things. We can talk. Let's add 2 or 3 more, and then we'll get going on those deep ones. I want to go on the deep ones.
The idea when your computer says backup, you haven't been.
Awesome. Haven't backed up to iCloud. Good question. Awesome
Yeah,
question.
Mine never backed
Haven't
up.
backed up to iCloud. I'll explain to you why. We got 2 more long ones that I can do.
okay, look, this is backtracking a little bit, okay, about Uber. My aunt was showing how, she's 86.
Yeah.
Was showing how to get to her doctor by Uber.
Mm-hmm.
So it worked fine, but when she was looking to get an Uber back, she couldn't.
She didn't have internet. Or
And I had to come get her.
yes,
So she just wanted to know, why can I go, but I can't come back?
because it just depends how many Ubers are in that area. You can go anywhere with Uber as long as the driver's willing to pick up the ride and take
But
it.
she wasn't able to, I don't think she.
I know one of the very interesting things that you've got to understand is, so I have a friend who worked for Uber, and I went along with them and rode around in the Uber and learned how it worked. Is that drivers have to accept the job. So drivers will see that there's a passenger 12 miles away who wants to go 45 miles. Now, if she was picked up in a populated city center, there were multiple drivers willing to take that bid. But nobody wants to drive out there to drive back to another city center. So you can always get somewhere from Uber from a city. You'll always get someone to take your bid from a city,
For them to
but
go down
getting
there to
back,
pick you up.
it's not going to happen. So that is a major failing in Uber, and that's why they have something called surge pricing. So if there is someone in that area, they will pay more money to get back. The same ride, I want to give you an idea, the same ride in Uber would cost $5 on a normal day, and on New Year's Eve, between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., $230.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea there. Because it's all about demand. My cousin, who's an Uber driver, he made bank on New Year's Eve. He didn't go out and celebrate. He made close to $3,000 on New Year's Eve driving for Uber. Just to give you an idea. And people are willing to pay it because they're all drunk and they got no other options.
So, with the iCloud thing you're gonna talk about, I feel like I'm in a do loop between my iPhone and my iPad, that I get a notice.
It's fine.
Continue with
iCloud, yep, iCloud backup. We're going to talk about iCloud backup. I got room for one more long one, and then we're going to go ahead and get started.
On SuperDrive, can you upload your CDs?
Oh, yes,
And
let's
put
get
them
that.
into-
Oh, let's do that one. Just write down content modification. I'll remember that. Okay, so I got my list. Oh, this is a dark rabbit hole. We're going to go down with that last one, but I like to go down dark rabbit holes for the last of these classes. Let's go down a dark rabbit hole. Okay, so what we got? We've got four things. Okay, so let's talk about Apple Pay first. How many of you have ever used Apple Pay before? I love Apple Pay. You're from Germany, right? I used Apple Pay in Germany once. My favorite experience ever using Apple Pay was in Germany. I went to, this is great, because they don't have Apple Pay in Germany. And since they don't have Apple Pay in Germany, Germans are not familiar with Apple Pay.
Like credit
If you're from Germany, you probably know Carl's, the strawberry company, right? Carl's? No.
Strawberry?
Yeah, Carl's. It's Morning Moon Day. And
Strawberries grow. They're not matched to the company.
no, but there's a big company that's in charge of growing a lot. Okay, maybe they've just tricked me as a dumb American. Sorry. So, but there's a place.
Strawberries grow them.
There's a place in Germany. I'll actually show you. I think I've got Karls. That's called Carl's, and it is a strawberry theme park. And I go to the strawberry theme park. Yeah, seriously. And I go to check out in the strawberry theme park, and I take my watch, and I go boom, boom. I go boom on the register, and everyone in the restaurant freaks out and thinks I'm some computer wizard. Because they started calling me witch in German. They were like, I figured it out because I opened up Google Translate. And it was like, oh crap, they're calling me a witch in German. I'm going out in Southampton, so I'm going out in Southampton. When I go out in Southampton, I take euros with me when I go out in these other ports, but in Southampton, I bring out no UK money. The greatest thing about the United Kingdom is almost every place accepts Apple Pay because all of their bank cards are touch enabled. Therefore, it works like this. So what is awesome about Apple Pay is if you use Apple Pay and only Apple Pay, your credit card number will never be stolen. I can safely say that because do you know what Apple Pay does? Are you familiar with that two-factor verification I showed earlier where I've made a code? You might have heard of two-factor verification. Every time you pay with Apple Pay, it makes a unique code that's good for just that transaction. After that's used, the code is destroyed. The UK is the #1 adoption place for Apple Pay, and it is phenomenal. My day, as soon as you guys get off the ship, is anybody staying on for next cruise? Anybody? Okay. If you're on for next cruise, I highly recommend you go out. Now, are you going to London, or where are you going? You going to London for the day, or no, you're just staying around the ship?
No, the ship.
Okay. Get off the ship. There's no immigration. There's none of this craziness like this. There is one of the most beautiful malls you'll ever go to. It's called West Quay. Walk, 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 walk right off the ship. It has everything, and I'm sorry, I'm going to knock on some people real quick. It is very cheap now because the pound has fallen.
And the postcode is SO151GY.
What?
That's the postcode.
That's the postcode there. Okay, but here's the thing. I walk, and to get to the mall, I conveniently have to walk through an IKEA. And this is like a 10-minute walk. I conveniently walk through an IKEA, I stop, I get a nice big English breakfast. That's all those pictures you saw from the IKEA. £1.50, it's like $2. You get a huge English breakfast, and it's different than the breakfast food on the ship, so I like it. It's a little bit different. Then, Southampton, yeah. Then I walk through the parking garage, and when I go to the IKEA, I press my watch twice, I go, boom, right on the register, it pays. Don't have to, I never touch my wallet the entire time I go outside. You can use your phone as well, yeah. I'll show you how to do it on the phone. I only use this card to get on off the ship. I have no pounds. I have nothing like that. Then I go to Krispy Kreme. I go, boom. I pick something up in the Apple Store. I go, boom. I go pick something up with John Lewis. I go, boom. Then I go to IKEA on the way back. I have lunch. I go, boom. It's so amazing. Now, you can do it with your watch, but you can also do it with your phone. It's like using a CPass card all the time. It doesn't even feel like money. It's great. It's terrible. So you look at the credit card bill. But the cool thing is, if you have an Apple device that has Touch ID, if you have an iPhone 6 or later, unfortunately. Wait, was that SE? Oh, no, that's a 5. If you have an iPhone 6 or later, you actually have Touch ID right on there, and you have the hardware to do it right inside of there. The problem is, a lot of places in the United States will not accept Apple Pay. Do you know why?
Because PayPal?
Nope.
Because the equipment?
Nope.
To buy?
The equipment's there. Equipment's there. It's the same equipment. You know how they need to switch the chip cards?
It's a contractual thing.
It's not contractual. If your credit card number changes every time you use it, can the stores track you?
No.
It's illegal to do that in the UK. That's why everybody's just adopted Apple Pay. It's illegal to do that in Australia, but in the US, it's perfectly legal due to lobbying and different things for the stores to actually track your spending over time. A great story was there was someone that not a friend of my sister's, right? This is how much these stores track you. A friend of my sister's dad goes to get the mail one day, and Target sent the friend of my sister, now she was only 16, sent her discounts on prenatal vitamins.
Ouch.
Target knew she was pregnant before she knew she was pregnant. Because all of these stores study your spending patterns. They all study your spending patterns. And if your credit card number constantly changes, can they study your spending patterns?
Yeah.
No. So I'm going to show you on your phone. All you have to do to set up on your phone is there's actually something that says Wallet and Apple Pay.
Did you have a 5S?
Isn't this, mine has.
The SE, the 5 SE has it.
Okay.
The SE has it, yep.
Mine
You have a 6?
has a place below the card that I put in where I could add more cards.
Yes, that's what we're going to do.
Oh.
So you can add credit and debit cards, and you can add it. Now, the banks love this. The banks absolutely love this because it brings fraud to almost 0. So all you need to do, yeah, it's great. All you need to do is
put the credit cards that you use.
No, there's a piece of hardware that's required to do that. So if so here's the question: you have an iPhone 5 or 5S. You have the fingerprint sensor, right?
Yes.
So you can add Apple Pay to your phone with an Apple Watch. I'm just giving you the logic so you can understand. So you have to have the fingerprint sensor to have Apple Pay, but if your phone doesn't have the hardware, you can actually add it with the Apple Watch because the Apple Watch has the hardware inside of it. So all you have to do is you take a credit card, you put it right in the image right there. I'm not using a credit card, but I take the credit card, and it automatically lifts it up. What was really cool, I had to renew something. Oh, my Netflix subscription went up last night. Just to show you that it's not just unique to Apple, I was using this Samsung phone. When it said enter credit card details, it was so cool. I'd never seen this before. It goes enter credit card details. This works in Chrome on Android. And I just pointed the camera at my credit card. It said just take a picture. And it put the credit card information. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Apple Pay does the same thing. Now you can add, the banks love it. Almost every bank, every credit union, everything like that has it. In the UK, almost every bank is supporting Apple Pay as well. It's very, very cool, very, very unique. But the reason people don't like it is the retailers cannot track you. Now here's the interesting thing. Right now, Apple is doing all of this processing. Let's talk a little bit about the future. Apple's doing all this processing. They're the middleman between the bank and stuff like that. Here's an honest question. If Apple Pay catches on, do we need Visa? Do we need MasterCard? Do we need American Express anymore? Oh yeah, Apple has enough money to become a bank. I'm willing to make another prediction is that Apple becomes a bank within the next few years.
What about PayPal?
PayPal's an irrelevant thing.
You have to get an app on your phone to get the Apple Pay?
No, Apple Pay is built into the settings. So Apple Pay is built into the settings of the phone.
Under what? Under
It's right in the main settings. It'll say Wallet and Apple Pay. They'll be right under iTunes and App Store.
Peter, don't you have Wallet on that phone?
Wallet.
You have Wallet. If you need at least an iPhone 6 to have Apple Pay on it.
Okay, so I
They always
don't have
ask you to
it.
buy something
That's
in the
because
UK.
there's the iTunes and
Apple always
App
asks
Store.
you,
Okay.
do you want to
So we
pay
just have to get the
by
Apple
Apple
Watch.
Pay or other?
Yeah.
Just
It's amazing. I just tap it, good to go. Now, I want to show you a really cool video. Something they did that's really cool. I'll take a look after the class, don't worry. So I want to show you a video that's really cool because they've even added Apple Pay now. Why they don't call it iPay, you asked a very valid question, is they've added Apple Pay to the Mac as well. So I want to show you me buying something in Apple Pay on the Mac. So this is my 15-inch Retina MacBook Pro. It's exactly what I have right here. And I've got, real quick, we'll take a look after the class, no worries. So if I play this back, you'll see it says touch to pay with Apple Pay. And it's got a fingerprint sensor built right into the machine. Processes. And then it'll go boom. And then it's done. Ba-doing. Done. And the charge actually shows up on my credit card right away. When you pay for something with a card that's done with Apple Pay, I paid something off last night. I paid off something that was like $300 last night. As soon as I paid it off, it instantly popped up and it was like, done. You can go in, you can use Apple Pay inside the Amazon app, you can use it in the Apple app, you can use it in the Uber app, you can use it everywhere. It links all of your cards, makes your cards work anonymously. The only weird thing I personally find about Apple Pay is it used to be when you go and you bought a new iPhone, they would know who you were.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have to give them all your information and stuff. When you go buy a new iPhone with Apple Pay, it's like, we have no clue who you are. So it's so secure, even Apple doesn't know who you are. Now, they're working on adding loyalty cards and different things like that to Apple Pay. So you'll be able to add all your loyalty cards. And what the idea is, to add the loyalty cards is so that you have an Apple Pay that's also tied with the target. So your credit card number is not transmitted, but your loyalty number is transmitted, so the retailers can still track you, if that makes sense. Yeah. Best Buy resisted it forever. Best Buy's having Apple Pay. Target's having Apple Pay. The only company that's probably never going to support Apple Pay is Walmart. Because Walmart made a competitor called Currency, which failed dramatically. But every single store, the chip readers, you know, the ones that read the chips on the cards now, those chip readers will also read Apple Pay. That technology will read Apple Pay. They've just turned it off. Walgreens and CVS originally had Apple Pay on until Walmart figured out they had Apple Pay on and they were part of the Currency consortium. Because the difference between Apple Pay and Currency is that the retailers can still track you. So that's a nice thing. I go out in the UK, I don't need any euros, I don't need anything like that, but I've learned never use it in the strawberry theme park in Germany, because that's really, really weird. That's Apple Pay in a nutshell.
Richard, are you using a US credit card for these?
I'm using a US credit card, but it works with UK credit cards as well.
You're paying a commission on that one?
I have a credit card that does not charge foreign transaction fees. So I have one credit card that doesn't charge foreign transaction fees because I know that, and I'm a world traveler. And the weird thing, I'd never mentioned this, I actually, before I worked for Celebrity, I hated to travel. Like, I hated it with a passion. My ex-fiance would be like, I want to go somewhere. No, I want to stay home. I want to stay home. Now I like traveling because I come, I spend 6 months here. I generally meet very nice people, and it's very good. It's very easy, very simple. Okay, so Apple Pay. I want to, yeah.
What kind of watch would you use
you know, the Apple Watch is worth it. Or
I have an Apple Watch. On this one, this has Apple Pay. I have a Samsung Watch. This has Samsung Pay. Now, very interesting. My Samsung Watch can do something that my Apple Watch can't do. And it's very interesting that you asked that question. When you talk about payments, so Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, very similar, but Samsung Pay has a very interesting trick. Samsung bought a company called Loop. Okay, and what Loop did is they made gadgets that had an inductive loop inside that could fake a credit card swipe. So this one, I can actually hold right to a credit card reader, and it will fake the swipe. I should not say this on TV, but I have loaded my room key onto this watch.
Oh, you're a bad boy.
And I can get into my cabin just by going, book. And then it just loads it in, because I figured out the actual code that's written on my room key. I loaded my room key, so all I have to do is go, boop, boop, gets me in. It fakes the card swipe. Okay. I've not done anything bad with it yet. I mean, I have the captain's I mean, I didn't say that loud enough for the microphone to actually pick it up, but if I want an elevator, doop. You think of, which one do I, so, loaded question. So the good thing is, so global Wi-Fi is really easy. So we'll talk about smartwatches. No, global Wi-Fi is easy. So I'll show you some smartwatch stuff because we've got a couple minutes. Global Wi-Fi. The two of them we're discussing something called global Wi-Fi. It's something that AT&T or all these providers offer. It's a scam.
Really?
It's a scam. All it is it's an app that lists Wi-Fi networks that are publicly available, and that's it. That's all global Wi-Fi is. It's an absolute scam. Let me see if I have the app that I really like them. There's another app that I can't find, but global Wi-Fi, scam. Let's replace, I know that came from you. I put that question in. I just like to say scam because it's a scam.
So we shouldn't use global Wi-Fi.
It doesn't do you any good. Here's the secret. Just go to a Starbucks. Just go to a Starbucks. Just go to a McDonald's. Go to anywhere like that. Something I did not mention earlier. I'll tell you something that I didn't get to in the earlier class of this or in the theater class because I just forgot to say it. So remember I'm talking about Google building these Wi-Fi routers. I haven't been back to my cabin, so I still have all this stuff. Building these Wi-Fi routers and all that. They're actually already testing all of this. And you don't know where they're testing it. They're testing it in Starbucks. I used to be an IT manager at a university. And we had a really fast internet line, one of the fastest you could buy. If you've been to a Starbucks in the US, you'll notice that the Wi-Fi in Starbucks is now called Google Starbucks. If you go to a Starbucks in the US, it's now called Google Starbucks in a lot of the country. Google has put 10 times more bandwidth in every Starbucks store they've worked with than a university campus has inside of it. I only know because I have a friend who works for Starbucks. He's like, you got to come in the back. You got to see what's here. It's like, why do you need this? It's like, just Google, put it in Starbucks, because Starbucks are all over. You're starting to see where this is going.
But they're safe.
No. Google is going to take Starbucks, is going to take street lamps, is going to do all of that, and in big cities, bounce internet between Starbucks locations, super fast, high-speed internet you cannot saturate, and put everybody out of business. It's wonderful. Nobody sees this coming.
I like it.
What?
I like it. Is that it?
No, but Starbucks is.
The head of the spokes, the hub.
Yes, they're setting up in big cities. They're setting up Google Starbucks, and they're setting that as a spoke of the hub. This tech was not invented by Google. They acquire. It's called acquire and hire companies all the time. Touch ID. We all very famously know Touch ID. That's something on the iPhone. Apple didn't invent that. They bought a company called Authentic that makes Touch ID. Siri. Apple didn't invent that. Here's the cool thing. Siri actually has, this is strange. Samsung has a new assistant on their new phone called Bixby. That was made by the same people that made Siri. They sold Siri to Apple, went back, made something else called Bixby, sold it to Samsung. So the same people worked on both Siri and Bixby. I've only had Bixby for about 3 hours of active use, so I'm not even going to attempt to use Bixby right now. But just to give you an idea there, this is where this is all kind of going. But he asked about watches. Let's talk about watches for a minute. I actually have about 6 different watches. 5 phones, 6 watches, it's okay. My favorite smartwatch ever made is one you can't buy anymore. It was from Microsoft. It was called the Microsoft Band. It was cool. It had so many features. It had a heart rate sensor. It had a skin temperature sensor. It had a skin galvanometry sensor to see how much you're sweating and everything like that. Really cool. I actually built an app that let me use it as a polygraph. Just for fun. I could put it on someone I could figure. The problem was I had it for a year. I got it replaced 8 times because it was built so poorly. Great product. I love both of these watches. For the last 2.5 years, my Apple Watch has always been on my left wrist, and the visiting wrist is my right wrist. So you'll see, here's my wrist right here. Okay, I'm going to need a camera person. So you're just going to hold that, point it at this, point it at my wrist right here. We got to kind of, no, I think this. Just hold it right up there. Everybody should be able to see it. Okay, perfect. So you can look up while it's doing that. What I love about this one is it does a really cool visual idea of my day. So I've done 7,999 steps, and I can see how much I slept last night. But the cool thing is I don't actually have to touch the screen because the whole bezel rotates. You see that? I actually get full bezel rotation on there. I just reset this watch because I got a new phone. So I just reset this watch so it's not all in there. But the cool thing is I can actually trace my whole day and everything like that. The Apple Watch is a little bit easier for me to show you because I have an Apple Watch stand. But I can take the Apple Watch, I can put it right here. I get the time. I get all kinds of, let me go ahead, I get the time. I can use, you see that little play button next to the time on the left? I can use that to control my Apple TV. I've got my calories. I've got the battery of my watch, which is 72%. I've got the battery of my phone, which is 79%. I love my Apple Watch because I always know what's going on when I have my Apple Watch. I can also use my Apple Watch as a remote for my camera. I can use it as all these things. I think the Apple Watch has gotten to the maturity point that I can recommend it for everybody, personally. The big caveat I have to give is there are a lot of different Apple Watches. There's the Apple Watch Sport, which is the entry-level one. You don't want that one. Now, I look like I have an Apple Watch Sport. It's because I like the Sport band, because it breathes, so I look like I have the Sport. But I actually have the higher-end one, which has a sapphire glass screen and stainless steel. And it's fantastic. I've been with smartwatches for years and years and years and years. I love smartwatches. I've never not had a